Alright, so part one was kind of a little bit that thingamajig, and then part two, but I can never quite get the time at night, and I have to wait until the weekend, and I don't want to keep this hauled off until the weekend because this needs to get scraped. This all needs to be taken apart, and you can see how murky the water is. It's going to need a 25-50% water change, and we'll show you how all that kind of makes all this look really good. Plus, these guys are getting a little smushed up with some stuff, so I got to clean things off. Is pretty much what's going on, because the shrimp squad can only do so much. But you see all this anacris, all this stringy stuff, all that yuck, it's getting kicked off. And I want to see if I can clear out some of these little snails over here. Now, thankfully, anacris is very strong and fast growing. A lot of these smaller, thinner looking shoots are newer ones. Some that break off, some that, just come off of the bigger, leafier ones. But your older ones are the bigger, leafier ones. And I started off with some thinner looking shoots, so a lot of the ones are not thinner but smaller. So a lot of the thinner ones or newer ones being taken away because I didn't have this much anacris to begin with. So I showed y'all in the first part how the pumps essentially work. I'm going to show y'all how I do with a bucket and stuff. So I hold up, got this right here. This whole thing right here has been used for so many water changes. It is safe. You don't want to normally take a fresh litter box thing and use that for water. Oh, the other thing I'm looking for is right here. It'd smack me if it had hands. This guy right here. Let me change the angle on y'all right fast. Let me get this going. That look about right. We can work with this. So I have this bucket. I like this lid because I'll normally bring this stuff to work a lot, but what we're doing today is I'm resetting a lot of this. We might have a tiny bit left in because of course there'll be some on the sides. We push back down into there and everything. But what we're doing today with this is one of my old shoots right here. That's a nice big guy. Nice. We're going to save the anacris. I want to keep that in there. We're going to take a lot of this duckweed out. The duckweed has done a lot of good, but because it's blocking a lot of the light, my ferns are not growing like they're supposed to be. They're shooting a lot of like little leaves off and everything. That's a sign of things that they're not getting as much light as I would like them to, because they need to grow a little bit bigger before they really start doing stuff like that. So more so the ferns are showing me that though these guys are pretty important too, they're not working well with the rest of the ecosystem. So we're going to get these guys out of here. But I have a 10-gallon tank outside that I will also show you guys once it is good and I get all this water out. So you can see all this murkiness and stuff. This is a mix of some of the tannins of the Mopani wood, but just the mess of the dirt and the sand being picked up, kicked around. That's a lovely noise. Splishy splashy sounds. You know what? Hold on. I can probably see if I can do some sort of background music or something. I don't know. That's gonna take a lot. I don't have that system out here and to set that up. Normally when you hear the jazzy stuff that comes from the PlayStation, but that's in the room where the cat's sleeping right now. So it's gonna have to some ASMR sort of like splashy sounds and stuff. You know what? You get the idea after this many scoops. We're just gonna go ahead. I'm going to fast forward this doohickey to the point where this is done and we have a full bucket. And actually, while I got you all here right quick, you see a lot of my water's kind of gotten displaced while I was doing this. So what you can do, don't be afraid to get your hands in there, There are some types of fish that you can't be putting hands in there for, but that's why you need a license for those kind of fish. And if you have questions about how to handle that kind of fish, then you probably shouldn't be handling that kind of fish. So for a fish that you can keep at home, you should be able to put your fingers in, move stuff around. Me, I got guppies, some yo-yo loaches, there's got to be a couple schoolie loaches in there still. Those little noodles are very infamously tricky at being able to be spotted easily. They're like Bigfoot, but we know they exist. That is a good leaf. I'm going to keep that leaf in there. This is a fern leaf, and actually, a little lesson right here. If you can kind of see how some other little leaves, here I'm going to get this down so we can show it with the other hand. So right in here, how it's sprouting a little leaf, this is what ferns do. This is why ferns are awesome. They do very well planted in very thin layer of rock, or you can get them kind of in sort of like planted attached to another larger rock piece or even a wood piece like Wapani or something. Spiderwood's pretty good. Driftwoods of different varieties are safe for fresh water tanks. Usually you want to get that driftwood cleaned very thoroughly. If you do find it on the beach, you want to do a boil out method and everything for that. Otherwise, fresh water driftwood is perfectly fine. So a lot of this is kind of scooped up over here. I'm getting to the point now where I'm starting to expose this fern, and now I can kind of see here we have some deficiencies in this water, so I have to start keeping up with. Yeah, a lot of the light not coming through. So this is something I was kind of needing to get on sooner and getting better on. We're going to fix it up, we're going to change it up, and all this stuff can come bouncing right back still. This kind of stuff got really bad within the last week, and then I will not lie, the kitten has taken up a lot of my attention and my priority. One, because of the kitten, and two, this is normally supposed to be self-sustaining, but parameters can shift very easily and things like this. Yeah, so I want to stretch these guys across some. These will be the ones that I'm going to want to more blanket. The duckweed is doing great for work and for my outdoor tank, so I'm going to leave it for that. I'm going to go ahead and do another time skip, get the rest of this finished up, and we'll dump this out into the tank outside soon. Just give me one moment. So it is really hot out here, and it was hard to set up the camera without it trying to not overheat. So one bucket went out here into the garden. The other one went to refill up some more onto this right here. So we got a little 10-gallon tank where they spend their time at, you know, the snails and the duckweed and the rest of the stuff that can't really fit in the tank anymore. Didn't really want the snails, but they came in on the plant and they're there, so we try and work through it. Alright, there we go. Probably about a good chunk of about a 25, somewhere between there to 30%, taking out the top. You can see all the random bits of duckweed that are still stuck there. That's why I wasn't worried about how much was still floating on top. Trust me, it'll grow back. So, the Anacharis, now that it's stretched out and had time to kind of roll around a bit and got to really look at it, it's looking really good. And the reason why I stuck my hand in there also is because you can hear that water going. I'm double checking. Nice. Okay, good. Another good reason for sticking your hand in the water is you want to be able to feel the temperature of said water. You know, you want to be able to try to match the water coming out your sink to the water you already have set in your tank. So I usually keep mine at a nice kind of tropical 78 degrees in Fahrenheit. I was about to say not in Celsius, but it's easier to say degrees Fahrenheit. So I don't know why I was trying to say it the more complicated way. Anywho, give me a second and we'll show the next step. Alright, first things first, a little bit of Seachem Prime. I'm going to do about 4 drops in this bucket. 6, well, I'm going to do 8. Because this water's going into the tank, so I can do about that many. It's usually, I think it's about 3.5 gallons of worth of liquid to be fit in this bucket anywho. And I'm going to do a full dosage of this stuff here. And that is, no, it looks dark like liquor or rum, but no, it's just some Flourish, man. This stuff's really good. A fun fact about this stuff, if you are going to have it around for a bit, put it in your fridge. It actually does better and survives longer in the fridge than in room temp after about a month. It says so in the directions, so that's why I know that. And I like to take my hand, give it a swivel, let it kind of work its magic. Usually the chlorinator and other things like that start to work through the water immediately. So a lot of people have asked me at my job, how long do I have to wait? Normally I keep it out in the sun for an hour or two. It's like, you don't have to do all that. If you leave it out in the sun and stuff, you do risk the chance of getting, especially in North Carolina with this heat, you can get parasites in there, like the little mosquito parasites or something like that. And I don't know if you really want that in your tank or not. I mean, for certain fish, it's great supplemental feeding, but for other types of things, you might want to just... if you are going to do outside, if you are on that, put a screen, something very tight over the water basin or whatever sort of thing that you're using to keep the water in. This way no sorts of outdoor bugs, things can try to fly into that water, because a nice cool drink of water looks very refreshing to many of a creature, and some you don't want in your tank. So just a heads up. Alright, now comes the fun part. So for a lot of people, this would not be as easy. I like to stand on a chair for leverage. And this is the first bucket. This is the one that has the chemical, not the chemical, but the oil that is the fertilizer and the chlorinator. So a nice even slow flow when pouring. I like to use the lip of the tank. Be careful the size of tank you use this trick for. Smaller tanks will probably topple or slide if you try and put weight on them. With the amount of water left in this 30-gallon, I do have, thankfully, the weight, and I am holding a lot of this weight in my arms as well. Just, it's hard to control a pour for something this stinking big while still being able to hold it steady and not drop or spill too much into the tank at once, really splashing up more of what I have is like substrate and whatnot in there. And I'm sure from the angle you guys might be at, oh yeah, look at all that. I can see all that fun splashy bits. And all those leaves floating around. A couple of guppies that I still have are still doing good. I used to have a few more guppies in there that I rescued from PetSmart. And then I got some female guppies to balance out the male to female ratio. And those guppies did not come in healthy. They had it, and I didn't notice. I didn't catch it when I brought them in. I thought I looked well enough. And I acted immediately, and I did save a few of the bettas, like 2 or 3 of them are still, or not bettas, I'm sorry, 2 of the guppies, and my betta fish. But my betta fish passed just for being really old, you know. You can tell by the fins. I had him for a bit, and he got to a point where he wasn't swimming around very much, so I was literally putting food right above his head, and he was eating. He was eating all the way up to the last day he finally did pass. But I could tell he was just getting there, you know, being a bit more kind of like that grandpa betta fish deal. Poor guy, but he lived good, man. He used to be in the 20-gallon before I upgraded to this tank here. So I had him for a little bit. He was the betta fish I got right after Razzleberry, and I got her because I think she was a fish that had either a bloat or a false pregnancy kind of thing. She had something. There was a lot of bettas that many years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, that needed help. All right, that's bucket 1 down while you listen to my story. Now I'm going to go ahead and get bucket 2 together. This is just going to have the prime and not the substrate, or not the substrate, the fertilizer stuff. I don't know why I keep messing up what the heck I got there. It's weird. I don't know how to word, but I know how to word kind of. It's weird. Alright, so before I do, I actually put that second bit of the water bucket in there. It does just have, it does just have the Seachem Prime in this one. There's not the Seachem Flourish in this one. And yes, I do remember the name finally. And no, I totally didn't look at the bottle on my counter still right now to remember that. I remembered it all on my own, like a big boy does. Anywho, enough about my memory and how it works perfectly fine. Let's go ahead. Another thing about cleaning the tank is getting the schmutz off the front and the back side of your viewing glass, more specifically. For me, you can see I have the tank kind of in a spot where people aren't going to really see from here or really see from the back too much. So I actually keep some good promotional algae growing in there. But this stuff right here, you can see the snail that's come through, some darker bits of algae are starting to form into this. So this is the soft brown algae, but some darker green spots are forming. So I do want to clean that, and these water spots you see here are from the outside glass. They're not coming from the inside of the glass. So I do want to hit both sides with things. Now I have a couple of tools I like for the inside part. This is great for just, you know, rubbing some stuff off, more specifically this kind of bits up in here and whatnot. And then this is just great for getting deep in there. So I am going to have to undo and move some stuff around. This is one of those things that you do roll your sleeves up for, and you want to do this again when you do have some water space kind of lower, you know. You want to do this at what you can can consider to do low tide. Not to make a joke, but then low tide has to do with marine. We're talking about fresh water here. So the joke was null and void, which is why I went Porky Pig there for a moment. So, folks, that's it for me as far as trying to make some sillies. Let's go ahead and get to showing how we do some cleaning. I can't make you laugh, I'll at least make you learn something. Alright, now let's go ahead. Nice, easy, calm scrapes. You don't want to scratch your glass like I've done once before with this. I was trying to get it cleaned really quick and I had more sand exposed. Everything looks all dark and churned up because the sand and the sort of soil I used, it was like a coconut fiber sort of substrate sort of bit. I was using it as a way for the rooted plants to get some extra nutrition without having to do root tabs or anything right away. And that's why I also have the flourish oil and stuff to kind of help with that too. I like to try and keep things smooth and natural. This is why it looks like this. So you want to do patient, you want to do light, but with a bit of force. Still, you do want to get it cleaned off, but you don't want to scratch anything, which is why I use a plastic old spackle thing that was never used for spackling. It was bought as just a plastic flat edge. So plastic flat edge can be found in things like this too, you know. So that's really good with that. And then what we got here, you got to be very careful not to scratch up your silicone. You scratch this up, you shorten the life of your tank. This is where most leaks will start, is on one of the corners where the silicone is. So when you get there, you want to be very gentle with it. And then a lot of the times, this is kind of an easy way to go rather than doing what I was just doing. I just feel it's easier for me to clean it if I go side to side, you know. But you can also do it like this and try to follow along the edging if you do want to be more careful about it. I've just done this a lot, so I know that this feels more comfortable to me, and I know how to kind of watch for it. And when I get real close, I get real gentle. This right here has always been there since I bought it. There's like a little tiny bit here that's kind of rough, which is why I'm so careful with this tank, because it came with some slight blemishes already, but nothing that I felt would cause the lifespan to be shortened or anything. And I got it for a good price on sale while I was working at PetSmart, so all the deals. But I'm also going to show you real quick, this thing is great for kind of pushing stuff down lightly from up top. You can kind of see how just doing all this is already making everything clear up so nicely. And all this extra stuff, these bits of plants and stuff that aren't so good, I watch my ghost shrimp crawl across the top of this water, picking off the dead plants and stuff. I see the little snails doing the same. Once I know everything's good and going, my yo-yos are just stinking lazy, and they don't actually do their job and eat the snails like they're supposed to. And the mystery snails are good for that stuff, so I might bring a mystery snail in after the Nyrite snail has passed away, because Gary's still kicking, he's doing fine. He's a black Nyrite snail who's just old at this point. He's been around for like a good year now, and when you have something that lives for only 8 or so months on average, that's a really good age. Like, I know I've heard them live to about 2, maybe even 3 years in some cases, if I can take the accounts that I've heard for real, but I know for a fact I've seen them live to 1.5 years. Anywho, let me go ahead and time skip again real quick, and we'll get to the point where the tank looks nice and new and a bit more clean. Another thing real quick, you can see I kind of got a lot of this up here. Once I pour the water rest back in here, it should clear itself up nicely. The trick I use when I am cleaning up the outside glass, I do not like using chemicals on my home tanks or anything. They do make a really cool spray that can be used for glass on the outside of the tank, but I didn't buy that, so. I use the water from the tank here, just a tiny bit, and I kind of put that across. and I make a whole bunch of new possible watermarks essentially. Like I just kind of wipe it down with the water itself. And then while I'm doing that, now that I have this nice wet cloth, I can now go across the top and kind of get a lot of that up there more confidently. Because I have more control with this than I do with this sponge on this thing with the stick on it right here. And that really helps me out with that. So you don't have to worry about the inside being all too perfect or anything. You just want to really hit it with a little bit of that, because once the water level rises, any of the watermarks that would appear are underwater. So there's not going to be any watermarks because it is water. No mark when water. Just water. Alright, and I go with a dry cloth over that. I was focusing for a second. I forgot I had to keep on with the talking. But it's stuttering again. Oh, goodness. Alright. Now you can see with just water alone, it looks really good. But you do have to kind of go over a couple times with it. And you have to be very diligent and look carefully. And I try to do it all with just the couple of towels I start with to kind of reduce but keep the use. Alright. And then now that I got that going, we're looking good with that. I do see also I have to get some more of this in here. So I will do some more work. I'm not going to make y'all look at stuff I've already told you all about or shown you examples of. I'm just going to keep it moving, and we're going to bounce back in when I feel like there's something that's good to talk about. Alright, one moment, please, once again. Yeah, a lot of that stuff has been kicked around and whatnot, and a lot of schmutz running around in the water, but outside of that, the glass has been clean, everything's good. I moved one of the air stones over a little bit, and this is going to allow the anachrys to stay separated, and they're not going to clump up. It's going to allow them to stretch out, and those kind of like new, sort of stretchy, longer, obviously, shoots will become leafier, grow nice and big, and do the same, and they'll be looking big and leafy like this guy kind of is right here. Oh gosh, it floated away. Come over here, example. There it is. Yeah, so this would be more leafier like this one. So not as dark. I feel like they have not had as much sunlight or light in general as they're supposed to, because that's why there's a lot of that duckweed cleared away. You'd be surprised how much a week's worth of not really focusing on something can really make so much change up. And that was kind of, I guess, in hindsight, if I removed some more duckweed earlier, I would have not had the problem of kind of emergency help in some of my plants, because even my ferns, man, they're starting to grow and stuff, but those holes are a deficiency, I believe, usually through iron or something. I'm sure someone in the comments who know off the top of their head a bit better will be able to correct me, but there is a mineral deficiency, and it could be coming also from the lack of light coming through. So as everything settles, we'll check on the tank later. Well, this is ultimately how I do stuff with my tank when it comes to water changes, and there's no wrong way of doing it. There's different ways, but kind of my way doesn't use the pump and whatnot. It's a bit more heavier lifting and everything, and a bit more hands-on, but it is something I like to do because it makes me be sure I'm doing it as best as I can, and hopefully that's the way that's most right to keep these creatures happy and healthy. With that, y'all have a good one. That's it for this video. There will be more coming out today. Peace.